everybody. Welcome to another episode of the AI Inside Podcast, the show where we take a look at the AI that is layered throughout so much of the world of technology. Sometimes you get one episode a week. Sometimes you get two. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined, as always, by Jeff Jarvis, my co-host. How you doing, Jeff?
Hello there. How are you?
Good. Doing all right. So we'll talk a little bit about it a little bit later in the show, but yesterday's episode, we had it all lined up. I'm sure, if you didn't realize there was an episode in your feed, check it because it's behind this one now, if you're getting this episode. I had high hopes, high intentions for that episode, and then Google did their thing, and they announced their big news, which we will also talk about. And it just basically sucked the oxygen out of the air for everything else.
Gee, you think they maybe tried to do that while Microsoft was doing something?
Yeah,
no,
I know, right?
I'm sure it was innocent.
I'm sure it wasn't planned at all. Just total coincidence. So anyways, we'll talk about kind of what that was all about and everything a little bit later. But if you did see that episode, sorry for the confusion. Yes, there was an episode yesterday and there's an episode today.
We want to just give you so much AI goodness. We can't help ourselves.
We can't help ourselves. But first, let's start things off not talking necessarily about anything particularly newsy. I just think this is a really cool opportunity. You, Jeff, had the opportunity to attend the Pioneer Works Scientific Controversies conversation. Friend of the show, Yann Le Cun from Meta was there on stage. DeepMind's Adam Brown. And they seem to be... labeling it as sparring about AI, but I don't know if it was necessarily. Was it sparring?
It was a debate.
Yeah.
It turned into a bit of and obviously cordial as could be and intellectual as could be. But yeah. I was so delighted. So this invitation came to Jason, and Jason said, I can't quite get to Brooklyn in a couple of days. Right. Jarvis, you want to go?
As much as I would have loved to.
Trudged out to through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel to the hip part of Brooklyn. Of course, it's all hip. And went to this wonderful event. Janet Levin has played host to 20 odd of these conversations of all kinds of fascinating topics. Jan was on once before. And so this was a really interesting talk because obviously everybody wants to know what Yann Le Cun is up to next. The reports have it from the FT that he's leaving Meta. He said he would neither confirm nor deny with a sly grin.
Did they ask on stage like, hey, by the way, of course you've got to ask if you've got that.
Want to make an announcement on our podcast?
Yeah, right.
And then I had the great privilege of meeting Jan afterwards, which was great because we
awesome.
spoken on this podcast.
Yep.
And what was actually a lot of what he said, Jason, was recast from what he told us when we interviewed him. Here at AI
episode
Inside.
63, by the way.
Thank you, and I recommend watching it. And he talked about his vision here, and underscored more. We've talked about since one of the PowerPoints that I pointed on the show some time ago, which we talked about last week. He said that LLMs are basically a dead end on the way to AGI, and so he was asked about that. Jan presented what is to me a realistic, reasoned, but still really exciting,
still optimistic
vision for AI. Yeah, and I think optimistic all in all. He was asked straight, will this be doom or a new renaissance? And he said a new renaissance. He does believe, as he told us back in the day, that the machine will get smarter than human beings in most every region of thought. But he has been very clear that LLMs are not the path there, that they're a dead end. That and Adam Brown from DeepMind was the opposite. LLMs just look at the progression of what they've been able to do. If we just keep that progression going through scale, we will surely get there. And Jan says no, there's limitation because all it does is predict the next word. That language is a finite universe to work in. And he sat there with a glass of water and said, for me to go through the process of describing what it means to move this glass of water and that my hand doesn't go through my body and it doesn't go over here and I have to take the microphone and put it over here. That's a very complex view.
Right.
So he was quite direct and firm versus Adam, saying LLMs ain't it. And so they had a distinct disagreement there.
Now, did Adam create or propose a pretty compelling argument other than saying, well, I just think this is the case, or like from your view?
It was trajectory. Look how far we've come with where we are. If we just keep going, we will be there.
Which is kind of the scale argument, which is like, if we just keep throwing scale at it, keep throwing money and building, just think of all the great things it's going to do. Yeah.
Right. So that's the beauty. And so there was a clear disagreement here, and Yann is presenting an alternative version. He complained that the scale LLM version, what he called, when I met him afterwards, he called the people who are LLM pilled, that they are sucking all the oxygen out of the room, and not only the oxygen, but all the venture capital and all the chips and all the data centers. So my hope is with his, with the respect that he has and the prominence that he has, that he's going to draw competitive investment into another area. Now, he's argued for world models. He and Fei-Fei Li and others had a paper we mentioned last week in which he talked about understanding reality through videos, how many chairs are in the room. And I think that's where, afterwards I said, it's pretty clear where you're going to head. And, he's been talking about this. He's been proposing these models, but we need to see investment in it. And so interesting, two things, Jason. One is that he asked about the dangers. Adam Brown said, yeah, there's good stuff and there's also dangers, and pretty much echoed what we hear about that. And Yann said, no, the next version of what we're going to see in AI is things that are directed to tasks, that the present AI doesn't solve a problem. It has this ability to predict things, and you present it with problems and based on that, but he thinks there'll be a different version. I hope I'm not misquoting him here or misparaphrasing him here, but it will be given direct tasks that deal with this world model of reality, and that's controllable. You tell it what that task is, you tell it what it is not. Those are guardrails that will work. And so he was optimistic about that. He was optimistic about the Renaissance in the sense that we will have these aids helping us do things all over. And in certain areas they already are, right? They're already playing chess better than we are, and so on and so forth. And then finally, he gave a rousing defense of open source and emphasized that strongly. And I think we have a little video clip if you want to play that for a minute 22.
Yeah, indeed. Here we are. It's about a minute 20, but yeah, it's really good.
The danger is if we don't have open source AI systems. Okay, in the future, every single one of our interaction with the digital world will be mediated by an AI system, right? We're not going to go to the website or a search engine or whatever. We're just going to talk to our AI assistant, however it's built. So our entire information diet will come from AI systems. Now, what does it mean to culture, language, democracy, everything, if those systems come from a handful of companies on the west coast of the US or China? I tell you, no country in the world outside the US and China likes the idea. So we need a high diversity of AI assistants for the same reason we need a high diversity of the press. We cannot afford to have just a handful of proprietary systems coming out of a small number of companies. There is one thing I'm scared of, and that's it. Okay? If we don't have open platforms, we're going to have capture of information flow by a handful of companies, some of which we may not like.
I apologize for the videography. My arm was getting tired. I didn't know that.
Don't worry about it.
You can find the entire event. John 11
at
her Substack has the entire event up with much better video.
That's right.
Than mine.
That's right.
So it was a great event. I'm very grateful that they invited you and you managed to get me in, and that I got to meet Yann Le Cun. He is the person I follow more than anyone else in this world. He's the one. The other thing he did, and I'll stop on this, was when Adam was making the trajectory remark. Yann is old enough and has been around long enough, he's younger than I am, but he's still old enough to have seen all of these cycles in AI. And he went through each one of them. If you watch the video, you get a history lesson. This was going to take over the world, then that was going to take over the world, then this was going to take over the world. And so he's seen it before. And that realism and experience, I think, is critical here. Unlike the Sam Altmans, who were frankly new to the field, Yann is in fact a pioneer of the field, and that lived experience and that intellectual experience matters. So
I appreciate his kind of his balanced rationale around AI, because when I hear people get too riled up and too just imagine and too bombastic with the predictions and everything, I don't know, the hair on the back of my neck starts to pop up, and I start to just feel like, okay, nothing is as amazing as you might be believing about the potential of something like this. It all has, positive and negative impacts, and that's not to say that there aren't really great things that come out of it, but there's also, or that it can't do amazing things. But there is the reality that maybe the technology, the way it's being implemented right now, isn't the right way, or maybe there's just a bunch of different ways to do it, and one way, actually takes safety and security and all these things more into consideration than others, all these factors. And when I look and listen to what Yann Le Cun says about this stuff, I don't see it as a Yann hates AI, which I think some people, some people see what he says, and because he's not rah, 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 they're like, oh, well, what the hell does he know? Like, doesn't he see all this stuff? And I just see him coming from a more balanced perspective, and that matches me. That matches with me.
There's a Le Cun-ometer, right? And so on the one hand, and the paradox of AI, of course, is that the most aggressive are also the most doomery, right? You go to the Anthropics and so on, and you get regular warnings from Sam Altman is warning, I'm so powerful, you got to deal with me, right? Yeah. On the other end, on the other end, you have haters, but somewhere up here, you have Gary Marcus. My hand can't get in for those of you who are watching, I'm not doing a good meter. So one end is the far end of take over the world, destroy it or not. The other end is I hate AI. Up here somewhere is Gary Marcus. And Gary Marcus is tries to be the realist of realists, and he tries to puncture every bit of hype. So he once in a while zaps Yann and says Yann's too optimistic. Yann's a little bit up on the meter here, but I think he's in a middle range where he has the realism you just described, but he also has the optimism of what this can accomplish. He's not anti-LLM either. There was a headline out that said that everybody disagrees with Yann Le Cun, and he said no. He said more and more are agreeing with me. And I think that's true. And one thing I meant to ask him, and I didn't have the opportunity to, was I think you hear echoes, different. You hear harmony from Jensen Huang, talking about world models the same way Yann does. Jensen's more from the robotics end, and Yann is more from, I think, the video end right now in terms of how they're thinking about this and talking about this. But the world model need is the same, and the optimism is the same. So it's interesting to start to plot these folks out on where they stand. But yeah, Yann is the mature, realistic, optimistic, experienced, and sane AI executive. So far, I'm on Team Yann.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm really happy you got the opportunity to talk to him, not just see him, but talk to him. That's really great. I really was, when I first got that email, I was like, all right, let's go. I'm just thinking it was in San Francisco or whatever, and that was in Brooklyn. And I was like,
you think you're the center of the universe, don't you, Jason? You're not.
I don't think it, but I hope things come here, and some things do come here.
Same here, folks. I'm in New York. See, we're coast to coast. We can cover either coast. So if you got your stuff,
totally, absolutely. So I'm really happy we were able to kind of,
especially if you have the good Korean spicy meatloaf sliders that were at the event. They were very good, very good.
Excellent. Well, I'm super hungry right now, so that sounds good to me too. I don't know if Ozone Nightmare is hungry, but he's hungry for what we do here at AI Inside.
Thank you, as ever.
Gave us the super thanks. Thank you, Ozone Nightmare. Says the quote, LLMs will be smarter than us end quote, statements drive me mad. Beyond being a currently baseless declaration, it limits what smart and intelligence means via a flawed equivalence between humans and AI.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point and important. And Yann also raised that. I mean, he was asked toward the end about consciousness, and he was kind of shrugging. I don't know how you define consciousness. What was interesting is he said that not LLMs, but AI will have tasks and goals. That's what we're going to give it, and thus it may have emotions.
Emotions, yeah.
In the sense that when it can't meet that goal that it has been given, it will look to us like an emotion. But all of that is anthropomorphic, in my view. It is.
Well, I was going to say that does it have it or does it project it?
Bingo. Well said. Very well said, Jason. I think that's the way to look at it. Yeah.
I think there's a big difference between having an emotion and just projecting it, or knowing to say it, knowing that in this circumstance, in this situation, this is when this emotion often comes up for humans. Therefore, I will project it.
And the other thing I would ask Yann, he was off the stage, so I didn't want to bug him with too many questions when I met him.
Sure.
Is whether in his vision, and I don't know the answer to this, but I almost sense that the AGI crew is thinking we're going to have one machine that can do everything. We're going to have the ultimate machine. I sense, and I can be wrong about this, with Yann, that he's talking about plurals. That the totality of what AI can do in all kinds of areas will add up to beating us in individual areas. So to your point, Ozone, I don't know which to call you here, your real name or your screen name, but is that this idea that you have one general intelligence that beats all. I agree. I still think that's BS. But I can start to buy what Yann says when he starts to split that up. And we already see it. We've discussed this, right? It's better at us than chess. It can do things linguistically. It can do, but he said, this is what he told us when we interviewed him. He said, come back to me when it can load the dishwasher, when it can learn to drive in 10 hours of instruction on its own. Right. As far as he's concerned, present efforts at supposedly autonomous driving are cheating because they have all this other accoutrement. When you can really do those things, you can learn those things like a 10-year-old can, or when you can learn how gravity works like a 9-month-old can, then, you're starting to talk about general intelligence. But he says we're not there in any case.
Yeah. We might be able to load a bunch of data in there and feel like it really understands these things, but there's a lot of information, the world model that he often talks about, that is completely lacking there. And so a true understanding, in our quotes, doesn't actually exist. It seems incredibly smart because it's got all the data there, but connecting the dots is kind of impossible into certain aspects of things that you and I as human beings on planet Earth, know very well, because it's a lived experience, not just a knowledge experience.
And John 11 did a really good interview, the whole discussion. She started with that question. She asked them whether they understood. And Adam was on the yes, it understands, and Yann was on the not so much side.
Define understand.
Yep.
What does understand really mean? Does it understand because it knows that when it hears this, it knows to query against a data set and find the answer? It feels like a little difference, but there are actually big differences when you're talking about these things becoming, human-like. They're miles apart, I think.
The great thing, this was also just a great New York weekend. Because Sunday night I went to Brooklyn to do that. Saturday I spent all day at the New York Historical with a symposium on tolerance in New Amsterdam and the New Netherlands. Russell Shorto, who's a brilliant author, brought that together. So it was just it's a place where you can go with the 400, 500 people in a room and they're talking about ideas. And it's a wonderful thing.
Totally. That's awesome.
That's when I love New York.
Yeah, I love New York. Do you have a T-shirt? I Heart New York.
No, I wouldn't do that. You see, because we're too cool to do things like that.
Yes, it's like living in San Francisco and calling it Frisco, which
or going to Fisherman's Wharf or
Yes,
riding
go
the
to
cable
Fisherman's
car,
Wharf, yes.
or going to Ghirardelli Square. The brilliant, when I lived in San Francisco, the brilliant thing I always said about San Francisco is that it ghettoizes the tourists. The
Yeah,
San Francisco,
push
the
them
tourists
into-
see is nothing like the San Francisco, the residents see.
Yeah,
And
true.
it keeps them there. They're all down at Fisherman's Wharf and Ghirardelli Square. Good. Have a good time. Have your Irish coffee. We're not having it.
Yeah, totally true. By the way, you do have permission to use Ozone's name, Joe.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. That's what he says. All right. So yesterday was a big deal for Google, as I alluded to earlier. And why is that? Well, I had heard, and we had heard, that possibly Gemini 3 was going to be releasing very soon. Then it was imminent. And sure enough, yesterday morning, an hour before our fun embargo interview was set to go live, Gemini
big news.
3,
We're going to have big news. Oh, well, it's a little smaller.
oh, the oxygen just left the room. Anyways, not to push down the news, the quality of news that is Gemini 3, because everybody flipped their lid over this. And we can talk about it a little bit. And I can actually show you a little bit of a demo. Some of the things that they've been touting, I haven't gained access to yet, even though I have Gemini 3 in my Gemini instance or on my account. But anyway,
And just for folks out there, just so you know, because I was cursing as I do. Why can't I get this? I'm on Chrome, and if I go to Gemini, you don't see it evidently. You've got to go to the deep reasoning, and under there you will see that it's Gemini 3. Otherwise, the default's Gemini 2. And on my mobile, I still haven't gotten 3.
Yeah, it's not like if you go to ChatGPT, you'll see up in the left-hand corner, it'll say -5 or whatever the version is, right? Here, it's very unassuming on the Gemini interface. But if you pull down...
Thinking, I'm sorry, right.
Yeah, I mean, these are both using 3 is my understanding.
Oh,
It's
no,
just,
when mine, fast is 2.5 and thinking is 3.
oh, okay. It's so interesting how these things
They
are
didn't
like
really...
staged and-
Google and branding. They just
Yeah.
have a problem with branding.
Yeah, but you really have to look for it to know.
Yes.
Oh, there's 3 Pro.
That's when I stopped
in
cursing
thinking.
when I found it.
Anyways, let's talk a little bit about what it can do. Native multimodality, which when I heard that, I was like, well, wait a minute, aren't these systems multimodal already? And what it actually means is that it can take multiple types of input and ingest them together. So it could be text, video, audio. It doesn't do them in sequence. It could actually contain it all at once and do it simultaneously. So, it just removes a little bit of the barrier of what you throw at it and when and what it's capable of understanding and pulling from. So that's cool. It can create magazine style layouts. Does this article on The Verge give any sort of a instance of what that actually looks like? Basically, it's very visually rich, let's say. And I don't know that is the best indicator of what that is, but let me see here. Well, I'll just play the promo video while I talk about it.
That's probably the easiest.
Kind of creative style layouts, very visual, interactive flashcards, web apps, games, tools, all done through something called dynamic view, which is this visually rich and interactive kind of addendum to the Gemini 3 experience. That's the thing that no matter how hard I tried, I really wanted to, that's something different. I'll talk about that in a second, but I really wanted to get access to it, and I don't have access to it in my dropdown. It would appear down here in tools, dynamic view, and I'm not getting it. So I don't know why I'm not getting it. Hopefully I do too, but it creates these really rich interactive things throughout the experience that are just a lot of, very, very, very appealing. It really pulls you in. Generative user interface, a lot more animations, that sort of stuff. Google also says stronger agentic behavior, so it can handle more complex tasks. It can also reliably plan ahead over longer horizons. And then they have a new thing called anti-gravity, which is a multi-agent IDE. IDE, for those who don't know, integrated development environment. So this is really about development using all of these different agents and models all together to create pretty complex code projects with all of its first party and third party models, integrated in. And it also produces something along the line of artifacts as it completes its work. And that's all meant for verification of its work. So that's done by way of screenshots, plans, task lists, browser recordings. And so it's not just creating the thing, it's also creating more understandable ways to check the thing that it created, which I think is interesting.
And Google's stock went up about $304, almost $304. It's down now to $294, but the market loved this. And Google, had cooties when it came to AI. Oh, they're behind OpenAI and thus Microsoft. I think Google has well caught up in the market's view.
I mean, there was a lot of excitement around Gemini 3, and even not just yesterday because it launched, but like leading up to it, we started kind of seeing little hints of it on the horizon, and I could sense that people were getting really excited about this. I think another thing that's really interesting is that Google pointed out, made a point to point out that they are making this model less about flattery and more about telling you what you need to hear versus, OpenAI and ChatGPT, which with 4.0 had that kind of flattery / personalized perspective that they then kind of jettisoned for 5 and then kind of brought back to 5.1. So they're trying to figure out the best way to do that. Google's like, no, we're about information. And that's how I use Gemini. I use this a lot for like the research stuff. I find its larger context makes it really good for that. And so I think that plays to its strengths.
And meanwhile, just by the way, Meta stock keeps on going down.
Interesting.
So in the past month, it's down 20%.
Oof.
Yeah, oof. Whereas Google stock, I typed in goof stock. Google stock.
Goofle stock.
Is in the past month is up 14%.
Yeah.
With there was a bit of a down curve last few days for all tech stocks, but this really the market is impressed. And I think they should be.
Yeah. Well, it's a very visual approach. And so one of the examples that I wanted to try, and, I was kind of trying to figure out like, what's a good way to test this? And I haven't really worked a huge amount with Canvas, but some of the changes that they made with Canvas, I used a prompt, which I will fully admit AI helped me create. Make a neo-brutalist, because I would never even know to write this.
You're a neo-brutalist persona kind of guy.
Make a neo-brutalist personal site. Make it chaotic, colorful, and use smooth scroll animations. Really push the limits. That was the prompt. That was it. And I put that into Canvas, and it came back with like, I'm not a web designer, so things like this. I mean, some of the elements that are interactive. Actually, let me go full page on it. This is a first start at a web page, and it's not just a static, a couple of blue links on the page. It's not just images either. It's like these kind of animations. I certainly wouldn't know how to do this, but I'm not a web designer. Maybe this is easy stuff. But, it did this in a matter of, I think, like a minute. It gave me this this interactive web page. Not everything works. Like this little spin me, I can't like interact with that. Don't know how to go backwards. Once I got here, there's no way to click to go back or anything like that. But anyways, I find that pretty darn impressive and kind of a, almost certainly a sign of more things to come down that road. And definitely a good example of the visualization, the visual kind of, I don't know, is acuity the wrong word? Probably, but capabilities of Gemini 3.
I've really got to, I have not, I must confess, and this is like, hello folks, I haven't done my homework. I haven't played with vibe coding enough. Because it's really impressive. I just gave it a prompt. It's still building it. And to see it build that code in front of you.
Yeah.
And realize that I'd be incapable of doing it.
This is a little weird. It has the animation over to the side. But I mean, just the fact that like it's inverting the colors. It gives me this. I don't know. This is it has a dynamic quality to it. I'm sure there's a ton of imperfection. If you got in the code, I'm sure there's plenty that people would look at it and be like, "Oh my God, this is garbage." But maybe not. I mean, it's rendering, pretty reasonably as far as like a good first step. I think that's pretty impressive.
So I asked,
But I haven't done much of that either.
I just asked it to make a site design appropriate for the 19th to 20th century typography. And it made a fake newspaper, and it's okay. It's not great, but
Yeah.
it did all that in no time flat, and
It
it's
was
pretty
capable.
amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. So Gemini 3 out now, and I know everybody's playing around with it to try and see like what is it really good for. I really want to test out the dynamic view aspect because some of the examples that I saw like give me a layout of Van Gogh's art, and it had this it just immediately spit out, maybe not immediately, but after a couple of minutes spit out this fully interactive way, which instead of just having a mountain of text, which we're really used to getting from LLMs right now, this is kind of taking that text and putting it into kind of a dynamic web page style interactive presentation, let's say. And boy, if it's capable of this now, once again, it's like, what's it going to be able to do in a year? It's crazy.
Right.
Really cool to see how it's
Yeah,
progressing.
I think these things will conquer media world. They are conquering
Media world?
Media world. That is to say, the
Media
things
world.
that mimic media, that we can see in those two dimensions.
Yeah.
Text, images, video. It's the third dimension where it gets in trouble, and that's what Yann's working on,
Right.
and that's what Jensen Huang is worried about, and that's where the real development will come. But as a media person, both of us media people, it's pretty amazing. It can do pretty. It's getting to the point where it can do pretty much anything in media. Now that means a lot of it's slop, and we got to deal with that issue. But as a technical ability, it's phenomenal.
Before we go to the break, I just have to say I was out for a walk with my dog the other day, my dogs, and I was flipping through YouTube to try and find something, and this short comes up, and it's like, make 100 Instagram reels in 1 minute.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my God,
Go to
okay.
hell.
I had to see what the heck this thing is about. And sure enough, like the process, it does that. It had to do with fitness, and it was like, go into ChatGPT and tell it, come up with 100 very, popular fitness or not prompts, but like motivational, sentences or whatever.
Human prompts, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, human prompts sort of thing. So here's 100 motivational fitness related things. And then she takes that into like Canva and, through a CVS or whatever file and CSV, not the drugstore. No. And, anyways, the process would totally work. At the end of the day, in a matter of a minute, she had like 100 Instagram reels to share of this thing. But it was just like, oh my goodness,
This is how the internet's ruined.
This is where it's going, isn't it?
Yep.
Just like churn it out, churn. Yeah. Anyways, interesting stuff. Let's take a quick break to thank the patrons of this show, the supporters who support us on a deep level. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. If you like the conversation that we have with ourselves and with other people, like guests like yesterday with Charles Lamanna from Microsoft. You can support us in doing all of that. Probably the best way to support us is to go to Patreon. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. Sign up for one of the tiers that comes directly to us to support the production of the show, allows us to continue doing what we are doing. And every once in a while, we like to throw out a little thank you to a few key people. This week, it's Tim Epperson, Cyprian. Is it Cyprian? I've never known how to pronounce that name. Cyprian, Ciprian. I hope I'm getting it right. Nicolescu, and Hi-Fi Freak. So thank you for being amazing patrons, for your support. And we appreciate you. Going to take a quick break, get on the other side of that, and talk about more news, including Microsoft leaning even further into AI in Windows, coming up in a second. All right, now it's time to get to the news that was pushed out of focus because of Gemini 3 yesterday. Not that I'm jaded or anything. We have at least one piece of the news from Build is just what we've been talking about it a little bit already, but that Microsoft is leaning further into AI, the AIification of Windows. There's now going to be a new dedicated Copilot taskbar for those of you using Windows, a little taskbar that you can that serves the purpose of putting the AI front and center right in front of you so you can't ignore it. But that's going to be enable you to summon different AI agents across all your apps, across the connected devices, that sort of stuff. So, and you can imagine all different types of agents, right? Copilot specific, troubleshooting, third-party agents, all of them going to be kind of part of this to do all the things that you might want to do, from file search to document analysis, all that kind of stuff. And yes, you'll be able to say, or maybe you already are able to say, "Hey, Copilot," and it'll trigger it off if you prefer to use your voice. So AI layers coming to the operating system, which, yeah, not surprised about that. Yeah,
I think it's going to be, it's in everything. And one more time back to Yann, he says it's already the case. We're touching AI just constantly during the day.
That's true.
And I think that it's the more it's apparent and transparent, the better.
Yeah, totally. Although, yeah, well, I mean, that's a really good point. AI already layered in so many different places, as we talked about.
Where did that come
layered
from?
throughout the world of tech. Yeah, I wonder that sounds familiar. But there's such an emphasis on putting it into places now, whereas before maybe it just existed and we didn't emphasize the AI aspect of it. And I think there's a little bit of
that's a good point. Before it helped the company, right? It made translation immensely better.
Yeah.
And if you asked, it got better because of AI, but it wasn't kind of added in, obviously.
Right.
Whereas now an operating system says, here's where AI is going to help you. And
by the way, AI is over here. AI is over here. AI.
That's all going to fade in the background. It's when AI becomes accepted, except when it's cursed for letting people create slop.
Yes. 100 videos in a minute. And they're also, by the way, leaning into further the use of voice as like a premier input method. So not just your keyboard, not just your mouse, but also your voice. I don't do that on an OS level, but I could see myself moving in that direction because I'm definitely using more of the AI models that I interact with through voice now than ever before. And so I could see myself kind of moving in that direction if I had it all set up.
I reached out to shake John Levin's hand in Brooklyn on Sunday, and suddenly she pulled back because she had a cast on. She'd broken her hand. And so I said, using voice more? And she said, oh, yeah. It's amazing. One day I hurt my hand only for one day, and just to be able to have voice available was phenomenal.
Yeah, totally. Click a button or just say, hey, whatever, and just start talking. And yeah. And then, of course, another big announcement was Agent 365, which, we don't have to go entirely into detail because, after all, we have a full episode on it that sits.
But why don't you summarize it for our viewers and listeners, Jason?
Yeah, sure. Charles Lamanna, who leads the effort at Microsoft of Agent 365, came on to talk a little bit about what it is. It's a new control plane for managing agents across the enterprise. And I think the real kind of interesting aspect of this is that, is the workplace moving in a direction where agents, actual AI agents, are seen as kind of like another employee on your Teams call or appears alongside human workers inside of Microsoft's apps. So you as a human worker might see that there's a list of agents there attending or editing or whatever the case may be, all fully disclosed. But it's just, it just kind of transforms what we think of when it comes to workplace collaboration when, this army of agents, army makes it seem like such a bad word, but
better than mob.
Yeah. Cadre?
Cadre. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Is that a bad word?
It depends on the context. Depends on whether you're in power or not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyways, those agents appearing right next to regular workers. How do workers feel about that? Because it's kind of like an in-your-face, example of how this thing is doing the work that you're not doing. But maybe you're okay with that because it frees you up to do other work. I don't know. It's a complicated soup.
So it's a really interesting conversation. So I do urge you all to go back and watch the prior episode. And a couple of things struck me about it. First is that agents will have identities. They'll have basically an employee identity card.
Yeah.
And this is who they are, and this is their provenance, and this is what authorities they have and don't have. From the security perspective, it enables a security department to know what agents they have, and there's tens of thousands that they're already finding that are at work in various of the companies they're working with, and to audit their authority and limit that authority. So on the one hand, I thought, this is the agent cops coming. But no, what Charles said more than once is the reason they're doing this is to encourage the adoption of agents, that they think this is a good thing and it's not a scary thing, and that by putting these controls on, people will have more confidence in them and know what to do. And then the other thing that struck me as very interesting is this is not just inside Microsoft. This is
although
for
they did
agents.
mention they have 130,000 agents
Right.
internally running. Yeah.
Right.
So they've
but
got
this
a
is
lot
for
of them.
anybody,
Yeah.
anywhere. And this is
For
open
anyone.
and free, and it's intended to become, they hope, a platform, a standard for identifying and controlling the authority of and auditing the work of agents. And so what they hope is that others will use it, whatever platforms they use, because the agents are going to be operating out there on the internet and everywhere. So it was a really interesting conversation, and I'm glad, thanks Microsoft for bringing it to us.
Yeah, and I mean, it also goes back to the fact that like these things are going to exist, whether Microsoft builds, corrals these agents or not, people are still going to be utilizing them in these environments. And I think that was part of, their impetus is like, would you rather have these agents in the, in this environment in a controlled way, in a way that gives you real clarity and understanding of what their roles are and what they're capable, what they are allowed to do, and if they do something that they're not allowed to do, you know about it and everything, or that it's the wild, wild west and these things just exist and you never actually know that that's an agent on the other side. It could be a human, all those things. So this is just a way of Microsoft is saying, hey, they're already here. If you want to pretend like they aren't, they are. This is just a way to give you a little bit more clarity and power over that. So, yeah, interesting stuff. The future workplace is looking more and more interesting. You put in about another conference, a link about another conference, and
I should have told you not to read it so I could have guessed what your answer would be. If anybody in the chat live wants to tell us, go ahead and give the headline.
I'm not entirely sure I would have guessed correctly.
At a major AI conference, one startup got voted most likely to flop. Anybody in the chat want to guess what that might be?
Yeah, we'll give you 5 seconds.
And then even more surprising is what came in number 2 on the flop list.
Totally. So this was at the Cerebral Valley AI Conference,
which is a great
in
title
San
for a
Francisco.
conference.
Jesus. Yes, totally. 300-ish founders and investors anonymously voted for their choice of least likely to succeed, essentially. Multi-billion-dollar AI startup. And if you guessed Perplexity, you win the top prize of nothing. Perplexity essentially, I guess, voted like, and would that just be because they're tapping into other models, not as much working on their own thing?
We're reverse engineering this meaningless poll.
Yeah. Yes, totally.
But I think it's a few factors, and I used to have high praise for Perplexity here on the show because they were doing creative things and they were staying ahead, but they were doing it through a certain amount of moxie, more than fundamental AI work. Number one, and number two, I think that they've been exposed for being more PR than reality, and I think it's a shame because they've done really interesting things. They came out with the first real AI browser. They've done other things like that, but they pretty much kludge it together to get out there and get the press release. So my guess is that that's a lot of it, and that there isn't much of a business there. But number 2 in the likely to flop list. Ready, folks?
Yeah.
Drum roll. OpenAI.
OpenAI. Yeah. Very interesting.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Right? Last week or week before last, we talked about an OpenAI bubble. Yep. Which I think is the case. There was a story that I put up at the last minute, if I can find it. No, I can't. Somebody else said, it was Hugging Face. Said that,
I've got that in here.
Oh, it's in there, right. Is that we're in an LLM bubble, which I think would echo what Yann Le Cun was saying earlier.
I was going to say that speaks to me. That's how I feel. Completely.
So if you believe that, then OpenAI is obviously the most extended and the most identified with pure LLMs. Anthropic too, certainly, but it has more revenue than OpenAI has, and OpenAI has more obligations, and it has more venture money that it's got to justify, and OpenAI is on a high wire act itself. So there's a lot of almost wishful thinking right now for an AI bubble to burst, and that's not good for anybody.
I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of attention and energy going in that direction right now. I feel like,
there really is.
Even people who aren't like who I end up in conversations with, and the topic of AI comes up. That's one of the first questions they ask me. They don't work in these in this industry that you and I do, and live and breathe this stuff, and yet that's the first thing they think. Are we in the middle of is there an AI bubble that's going to pop?
And how's it going to affect me? Which is a proper question. And I hope there isn't, because if there is, we got trouble. Even Sundar Pichai, thank you, warned that no company is going to be immune if an AI bubble bursts.
Right.
The tentacles out there are all over in terms of, we talked about this last week, in terms of who owes money and has business with whom. So I think it's bad to be wishing for it. I think there's a little bit of a comeuppance. A little reality check is a fine thing. Deflate it a bit is a fine thing. Raise the expectations for actual revenue and real business models. That's okay. Get more competition in models. That's okay. All that's fine. But to just say they hope the whole thing collapses could have disastrous effect. And I don't think I don't think it needs to. I'm not one of those who believes that this is not NFTs, as we've said in the show before. It's not Bitcoin. There is enough reality here and enough benefit here. It's not as much as people are saying, but.
And again, like that really speaks to me back to what Hugging Face CEO Clem DeLong said, which, really what I really connect with in what he says, and that perspective is that AI as a technology is not going anywhere. It's not like a bubble pops and suddenly AI goes away. We talked about that before. The kind of massive energy and attention on LLM might tamper down, might minimize, let's say. But AI as a technology, it's not like the bubble pops and suddenly, well, I guess that was the AI phase. Okay, AI's done. What next? There is so much already there. And so then when you look at a company like OpenAI, do you believe that OpenAI could fail so spectacularly that they go away? Or I don't know that I believe that would be the case. They might have a real big moment, and it might be very impactful, but I couldn't see suddenly OpenAI going AOL or whatever.
Let me go ask AltaVista what they think.
Yeah, right. That's true. I mean, you're right. There's a lot of examples to point to, I suppose, in that regard.
I think the problem is they put every egg in that LLM basket, in that scale basket.
Yeah,
that's an issue. So
that is.
Yeah, and AI goes back. So Herbert Simon, I have a couple of books about him here. Somewhere, is considered one of the inventors of the notion of AI back in 1956. It's been around a long time. It's gone through lots of iterations. So no, AI is not going away. I agree.
Yeah, no. And the ad industry is benefiting a lot from AI. So I'm sure the ad industry, stands to benefit a lot from AI. I'm sure they don't want it to go anywhere. Meta, Google, and Amazon all launched pretty major AI platforms. A lot of, or AI ad platforms, in other words, which, I guess there's a lot of similarities between these. Meta's generative ads model, Gem, not to be confused with Google's Gem or Gems or whatever it was. Here, let's see here. Where is this? So this is Meta first. There we go. Driving ad recommendations on Instagram and Facebook, personalized, efficient targeting. A lot of the goals of these are going to be very, very similar. This model's complex user ad interactions. So, it knows what you want before maybe you do. That's the goal in advertising, right?
So it's all of this is agentic. What
Yes.
Meta says is they created a new foundation model for advertisers, but it's pretty much the same thing. Amazon has a new set of agents that create and optimize campaigns at scale, that target campaigns, accelerate time to insight in Amazon Marketing Cloud. A lot of marketing speak, but they're trying to do that. And then Google's has AI advisors, agentic tools to drive impact and insights. Your ads advisor, your partner for AI optimization and action. Maximize performance with minimal effort. I mean, it's so funny to see advertising language aimed at advertisers. I guess they speak their language.
Right.
Create new campaigns, assets, and keywords. Take advantage of personalized performance analysis, and so on and so forth. So,
Performance analysis, yeah.
I've said this 100 times on the show that we're going to see the most uptake in generative AI first from advertisers. We see it in the creative side, we see it in the media side, and the analytics side of the business. And then beyond that, I talked about a study some weeks ago where it's evident to me that while media companies are trying to block the door to AI, brands obviously are not. Brands are saying, we want to be there. We want to make it as easy as we can for these models to find us and mention us when you ask for the best bike rack.
Yes.
And so I think what we're going to find is media and media brands are going to be left way behind here because advertisers are going to say, well, you guys are nowhere with AI. You're acting as if it's the enemy and you're the victim. And we want to be there and you're not helping us get there. So bye. And
Bye.
it's going
See
to
you
hurt
later.
media and even more. So I think that media would be very wise to look at what advertisers are doing because this is where the business is going to go. And meanwhile, Fujisimo gave an interview to, I think, Wired this week. And because of her experience at Meta and at Instacart, she's going to figure out how to bring not only paid products to OpenAI apps, but also advertising. And so you're going to see the AI companies are going to start competing more and more with media for ad dollars because they're going to have a friendly relationship. So it's going to be very interesting to keep watching the relationship of advertising and AI at about a dozen different fronts.
Yes. Yeah. And all the major companies have a lot invested in that aspect too, and a lot to gain from it. So yes, indeed. All right. Real quick, if you are enjoying the show, we would appreciate if you would leave a review. It's a small thing that you can do that makes a big difference for getting the word out on the kind of awareness around AI Inside. So go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review. It even appears on the AI Inside website, aiinside.show. I've got an area there that features your reviews. So, you'll be AI Inside famous if you do that. So thank you for that.
And us grateful.
Absolutely grateful if you would do that. It would mean a lot. All right, super quick break. Then we got a little speed round, and we'll get you out of here. One moment. Weather fans unite. Google's DeepMind Weather Next 2. It's an advanced AI model that is for global weather forecasting. Weather forecasting, you have to imagine, is a pretty complicated thing. There's a lot that we know about weather patterns and everything, but there's also a lot of unpredictability. And this model can predict hundreds of possible outcomes. I don't know how that compares to previous models. I would imagine it could also, but they say it dramatically outperforms current models in speed and accuracy. And it can also handle joint weather events. That's where things get really unpredictable because you might have a single weather event that's easier to predict, but when they combine with other weather events, it becomes a lot more difficult to know exactly what might happen or to predict what might happen. And these systems are better, more resilient, more effective for all that stuff. So
What struck me here is this is Mother Nature's digital twin. This is in the thread that Google DeepMind put out. They explore, as Jason just said, hundreds of possibilities in less than a minute from a single starting point. That one butterfly wing a flapping, and it starts from there and says, okay, what are all the various futures that can occur? And they said this would require hours on a supercomputer using physics-based models.
Wow.
So it's a new approach called functional generative network, which generates the full range of possible forecasts in a single step. And then they add targeted randomness. This is where it gets beyond me. I don't understand what that does. Into the architecture, allowing it to explore a wide range of sensible weather scenarios. So this is, I think it's going to save lives. It's going to make a difference to people. And it's also going to make a lot of convenience. Do you take an umbrella today or not? When's it going to start raining exactly? But it really is an impressive use of this kind of technology.
Yeah, I mean, time and time again, and I think maybe this comes up in a few minutes, but the specialization of these systems versus the general purpose, which is the way to go. That's where the really big, amazing advancements come from.
I mean, I get the draw of generalizability. In the one hand is the AGI-BS. But on the other hand, it's saying we created a machine. This is what Adam Brown said at the event on Sunday. Once we create a machine that can program itself, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. That it can generalize its ability to any task then. And that's why generalizability is such a goal for these folks, but it doesn't all have to come from that source. You can create an amazing weather machine and wow us and have huge value and take the win, take the sale.
Yeah, totally. And you can do that now versus somewhere down the line when AGI might possibly happen.
Yes.
Yep. OpenAI announced new group chats coming to ChatGPT, a more collaborative, I guess, environment. It's first kind of in the midst of a pilot happening with a subset of users. But basically, this is a group chat experience inside of ChatGPT. I don't know how it'll be presented, at least inside of the app, with a ChatGPT bot on standby when you want to bring it in. When I first heard of this, I was like, oh my God. What I envisioned was a bunch of people in a single query window. Like, oh, what about this? What about this? And just the noise that would create. But this is really just like personal chat with the ability to every once in a while go, oh, that's a great idea for dinner. Hey, ChatGPT, tell us this thing about it.
You and I are disagreeing about something, and you can say,
who's right?
ChatGPT, tell Jeff why he's wrong.
Yes. Exactly.
I guess it makes sense because we're both lone wolf operators.
Yeah.
We don't operate in Slack anymore.
No, true. And if we did operate in Slack, we would have access to AI in Slack chats. Google has AI in I think Google Chat. You know what I mean? So ChatGPT is
following,
catching up.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, following it as far as this is concerned.
But I haven't heard from anybody. I'd love to know from folks out there who are social beings in real companies who are using Slack and Google and such, whether you all find that useful. Do you call upon
That's a big question I have too. How often does it
Hey,
come
we
up?
could just ask the AI right here and it can give us the answer or the mistake, whichever the case may be.
Right.
It reminds me of when I was on the city desk on the midnight shift in the Chicago Tribune, and drunks would call from bars settling bets and asking the city desk. And my editor, Bill was his name, said, always give them an answer, preferably the wrong one. Because he envisioned them getting into a fist fight, and only the next morning when they went to the library where they find out that the Tribune was wrong.
Yeah, they were like, that was a horrible idea.
Yeah, but I can imagine the same thing happened with ChatGPT. Well, ChatGPT said, but who trusts that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Will it really settle arguments or will it create more arguments? I don't know.
Right. Oh, great. You just invited the slop into the chat. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Microsoft partnered with Anthropic to bring Claude AI to Azure. Anthropic is committing to $30 billion in Azure compute, up to 1 gigawatt capacity. Nvidia's on board. They're throwing in $10 billion. Microsoft's invested $5 billion. And I think a lot of this is just about Anthropic kind of shoring up its own enterprise offerings. There's a large industry reliance, as we talked about earlier, on OpenAI products. And so a bubble there would not be very good. But I think Anthropic wants a piece of that as well. So
I think I need to get a new filing cabinet to file away all these circular deals.
Oh, I mean, it's so confusing.
They're never ending.
It's hard to keep it all straight.
We give you money to give us money, to give you some stuff, to give us some stuff, and where the real value is created, we'll find out in 5 years.
Yeah, or we'll find out when a supposed bubble does pop and all of those complicated stacking of cards kind of fall. Yeah. Amazon and Microsoft, who appear to be very popular today, we've talked about them a lot, supporting legislation in Washington, D.C. to restrict Nvidia's AI chip exports to China. Both companies want easier access to those advanced chips for their own data centers, of course. Nvidia, on the flip side, would love to keep things open
Yeah.
to the Chinese market. Of course.
It's like when Microsoft goes after Google, and I get it. They're companies, they operate in their self-interest, but at some point, is there honor among thieves and AI people? What's best for Nvidia, in some ways, is better for them too, because it creates, in the long run, it creates more capacity, but they also don't. The hidden agenda here is not just they want the chips; they don't want China to have the chips because China's going to compete with them.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they're trying to block progress in the overall AI ecosystem for their self-interest. Again, I get it. They're companies. That's what they do. But I think here I'm on Team Jensen.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Nvidia earnings, I think, happening
They come
today?
out today after the close, yes.
After the close.
The market is hanging on their fingernails to hear.
Yes, I know. There's a lot of hype around it. So I'm sure we'll talk about that next week. And then finally, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, well, once Amazon CEO. I guess he's not CEO.
He's Poobah chair
Jet.
and yachtsman.
Right. He has a new AI startup called Project Prometheus. What a name. He's co-chief along with Vic Bajaj, who's a former Google ex-scientist. $6.2 billion in funding, one of the best funded early stage tech companies. I wonder why Bezos uses AI for engineering and manufacturing. So things like cars, computers, spacecraft. Spacecraft, of course, because Bezos is a space nut. And yeah, are you interested to see what they come up with? Like with these kinds of resources, what do we expect to see?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be stuff that we're going to see, except for automobiles. I don't think we're going to see it on a consumer level.
Okay.
I think it'll be at the high end level.
Yeah.
I think it's investment. And Prometheus, by the way, was according to Wikipedia, the Olympian god that took fire from the gods and brought it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and civilization.
Okay.
Jeff Bezos. Yeah, sure. Prometheus.
Sure. Whatever, Bezos. We've reached the end. Jeff Jarvis, thank you so much for being with me and talking about all these wonderful, interesting, insightful topics. Go to jeffjarvis.com to find all of Jeff's written work. Not even all of your books are here, just only 4 of them. But The Web We Weave magazine.
There's 3 others before that.
And Hot Type. Yeah, you're a pro. You know what you're doing when it comes to writing books.
Next one
Maybe
is
I should write a book.
Hot Type is in the copy editor's hands as of today.
Nice.
So right now I'm twitching because he found another stupid mistake and another stupid way to do a footnote and all kinds of embarrassing things copy editors save us from.
Yes. Oh,
Did you really mean this?
Thank you, copy editors, though.
Yeah. It's a luxury to have them still.
Absolutely. JeffJarvis.com for all your work. AIinside.show for all of our work with this show. Everything that you need to know, including our most recent episode, the interview with Charles Lamanna from Microsoft, can be found there. And then finally, AI Inside on Patreon. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. If you want to support us on a deeper level, that's the place to do it, and we appreciate it. We also have some amazing executive producers who continue to support us on a deep, deep level. Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, Radio Asheville 103.7, Dante St. James, Bono De Rick, Jason Knifer, Jason Brady, Anthony Downs, and Mark Starcher. Y'all are awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you for supporting the show like that. All right, I think we've reached the end. Who knows? Maybe next week we'll be surprised by Gemini 4. I doubt it. That would be really
made by Gemini itself.
Yes, right. Oh my, could you imagine? That would be crazy.
That's the announcement. That's the big announcement. No human being made this model.
Oh, jeez. I'm not sure how I feel about that potential future, but if it happens, we'll talk about it next week on the AI Inside podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon. Bye.